We've got an amazing fireside chat on how consumer insights fueled Next success and an innovative, disruptive brand. And so I'd love to welcome up the moderator, Jen Allison, Head of Global Sales at Wizer, Suzanne DuFore, Corporate Head of Research at Next Insurance, and Shani Broner, SVP Global Research at Wizer. Welcome. This is going to be a great session, and I'm going to disappear into the background.
Awesome. And I just have to do a check because we always do. Can everyone see and hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Great. So one awesome thing coming off of that session with Julia is no matter what we're talking about, data science, technology, and where the industry is going, it's all about the people and the passion. And it is so clear that there is just incredible passion that exists. So, you know, it's tremendous to see. So diving into this next session. So my name is Jen Allison. I'm so excited to be moderating this discussion today with Shani and Suzanne. I am head of global sales at Wizer, but I do have a long history in market research and a very big passion behind great innovation stories. So I am very excited about telling you all about how how consumer insights is accelerating Next to be both an innovator and a disruptive brand. We're going to cover a lot of ground in the next 20 minutes, including, you know, where insights fits within the organization at Next Insurance, how closely they're connected to the customer, how insights are cascaded through their organization, and really how all of this is working together to make sure that Next is unlocking insights that are making a very big impact on their business. So it is my pleasure to introduce two speakers today. I'm going to start first with Suzanne. So Suzanne, why don't you give us a little bit more background on yourself?
Sure. First of all, thanks so much. Thanks, Jen. And thanks for inviting me. It was kind of fun to hear the last part of that conversation that I got to hear the tail end of the one that just happened. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. I think the thing about me is that I really love research. I fell into this career and I never looked back. I've worked across lots of different industries, anything from early stage startups, mid stage, late stage, as well as established brands. I ran research at Netflix for 3 years, launching their streaming service. It's just been this amazing journey. And now I find myself at Next, building a brand that's 100% dedicated to small business and the self-employed. I'm the first one to say insurance, not a sexy topic, but the small business is awesome. So it kind of saved me.
Truly. And we'll learn a new definition of small business that I wasn't even thinking about. So we're joined also by Shani Broner. She's our global head of research here at Wizer. She's going to be bringing kind of an added perspective into this discussion today, having worked on both the client side and the vendor side. So Shani, you know, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Hi, so thank you. I'm coming from a background of both qualitative and quantitative research. About 7 years ago, I joined Wizer, leading the research team globally. We're trying to change the way companies consume and use market research. I'm working with Suzanne for several years and excited to share her story today. And indeed, I have to say that, you know, when we started insurance, it doesn't sound so sexy, but it's actually quite exciting when you hear the story and the stories behind it. My passion is innovation through research. I started a local small agency when I was trying to bring innovation back in the days. Then I moved to SodaStream. I was leading the market research there, disrupting the beverage industry, initiating some bold marketing moves. If anyone knows SodaStream, they're kind of famous on that, and they were acquired by PepsiCo 2 years ago, more or less. So that's me.
Great, thank you. So we'll go ahead and dive in. And you know, as many of you know, I think some of us were even chatting at the beginning where we sat, you know, a year ago and what was going on in our lives. Small business certainly was getting a tremendous amount of focus over the past year. We know Next Insurance focuses on that specific market, but Suzanne, I was hoping you could just start by sharing a little bit more about Next Insurance and kind of what you do.
Yeah, so first of all, so I learned a lot when I came to Next. So the founders of the company actually had this awesome track record. They sold their first venture to Intuit for 170 million. So I was like, okay, this seems like a good place to go. People that really know what they're doing. They looked for their next opportunity and found it in business insurance. And the numbers I think that really struck me and what they saw is that 99% of us in the US work for small business, which kind of blew my mind because it's not the way we think of the world. And yet more than 60% of those businesses are either not insured or underinsured. And that's kind of striking in terms of why. And so it was really the founders that saw that there was an opportunity to have digital impact and really, to an industry that's really old boy network, of really change that. So they set out to really make insurance easy to get. So online, it's fast, in 10 minutes or less, and affordable so that it would be less expensive. And so now, just even in this course of the last year, Next is now among the 100 unicorn startups, the top ones, and it's valued at $4 billion. So it's like rapidly growing customers, rapidly growing company.
So coming from my startup ourselves, it's a wonderful, amazing place to be for you. It sounds like the founders of your company really hit upon an unmet need in the market by targeting this segment. And this segment is very precise in terms of the small business space. Before you kind of entered the halls of Next, how was that company operating with market research, if at all?
So it's not like anything wasn't done, but I would call it very dirty research. So, not unlike other startups, there wasn't a lot of time to do research when you're trying to launch a business. So that's what they were focused on, but they knew it was important to step back and really understand what the customer needed and, refine how they approached it. So they hired me and recognizing that if you know your customer well, that you have a competitive advantage, and that is the most important tool that you can have. So my job coming in was really clear. It was really creating that continuous learning culture. It's really putting the customer in the center of everything you do, and it's making research part of your DNA, just like not even something that you just stop to think about, but just something that you automatically do. It's not easy. I don't want to make it sound easy. It takes a lot of discipline, but it's working at this company. Teams really value it. E-staff pays attention to it, and my team is finally growing. So, lots of demand.
And I always like to have everyone understand like the team size that you're dealing with today with all of the work going on.
Yeah, currently 2 and rapidly hiring. Yeah. It's like kind of a crazy thing of doing all this hands-on. I love hands-on research. I've often been said, oh, don't you want to just manage all these teams? I'm like, no, I love doing it. So this is a company where I definitely have my hands in it.
Yes, and with that, have to have an incredible passion for it. And, we know that consumer centricity is certainly a major goal for many organizations. We hear it all of the time. And is there something unique about how your team is structured within the organization to really help enable that?
Yeah, you know what? So as I said, I've worked with lots of different industries, and too often research is used really as a reaction to something rather than an impetus for a direction or decision. And so what you end up having is that people create something and it's too late for them to make real changes in something and moving forward because they brought in research too late. And that is a painful process. So I'm really positioning research to be a thought starter for everything that we do. So what is the problem we are trying to solve for customers? How might we solve it best? And it's not just that they have the problem, it's what's their most important problem that we're trying to solve. So let's make sure we put our energy toward that. Secondly, I feel really passionate about research being kind of the glue that pulls marketing and product together. Too often what's happened in a lot of companies is that product has a research group and marketing has a research group, and they don't communicate very well. And what happens is that one gets ahead of the other and they're not really sharing the same insights. And I think it's really confusing. And I think research has this tremendous opportunity to kind of combine those. So I feel strongly about having a centralized research function that actually feeds into both of those. It's important that we are listening to our customers, we learn about them together, we figure out products that we should be building and solving those problems, and that we learn how to build enthusiasm for that solution. So I didn't come up with this on my own. I really credit Netflix, because while I reported to the CMO at Netflix, I also had a dotted line to the CPO. And so it made me very equally responsible for ensuring that customer perspective was both in product and in marketing. And we really learned together, and it worked so well that I'm like trying to duplicate it in other places that I go. So it's not a popular way to go. It's, you tend to get UX researcher and then you get a market researcher, but I really feel important that we combine those.
And Shani, how about yourself? Did you see this anywhere?
Yeah, so it's funny that you said it, Suzanne. I mean, I have so many stories as well when I was working at SodaStream, and one of the times we kind of developed a new product, and I was working with the innovation team to kind of develop the new product features and functionalities, and I brought them to come and watch a focus group. And it was amazing to see how they thought this product is so simple and intuitive, and you can just imagine the mess that was there with like the flavors and the water going everywhere. And after they realized, research should be part of how they develop products, and they should listen to clients and consumers and kind of need to work better and connect between the marketing and product. So research definitely became the glue and was much more critical for the processes.
Yeah, and I think both of you, great points on this one as far as making research continuous versus just a point in time, and then driving as much as possible the connection between product and marketing. I've seen it when it doesn't work, and I've seen it when it does, and it's amazing the impact. So onward we go, and we all love great stories. And so Suzanne, as you have elevated research and insights within Next, are there any interesting insights, big or small, that are really having a significant impact on the business?
I mean, there are several, but there are two that really come to mind. One of them feels not important, and it's so important. We're in the InsurTech business of small business, and small business meaning like 30 and under, like small business. And we talk about small business all the time in our messaging and our communications, et cetera. But in the first few months of talking to customers, I realized that customers don't actually always call themselves small business. And in fact, they don't always recognize themselves as small business. They think of themselves as self-employed. And even though that feels like an overlooked nuance, it's really important, because if you're communicating, remember the US government says anything under 500 employees is small business. So if you're a self-employed person and they talk about small business, you're really not sure if you connect. And so understanding that nuance was really critical. The other thing is that the world of self-employed people, it's rapidly changing, and I love futurists. I love reading about what their goals are for, what different generations will do. And Gen Z is like top it's my drumbeat lately. It's the oldest, these are people aged 9 to 24. So the oldest ones are just getting out of college, and they're these serial entrepreneurs, and they're amazing. 24% of Gen Z have already started their own business. Think about that. The oldest is 24. I talked to a 24-year-old just this last week who graduated from college and moved back with his parents, not because he didn't have a job, but because he wanted to incubate his business idea. And he did it, and he launched it, and it's successful. And during the pandemic, he thought, what should I do? I'll come up with a second business. So he found a way to actually import candy from Sweden and brand it and sell it. These are two launched businesses, successful, and he's 24 years old, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. So I think it's incredibly inspirational. This up and coming generation has really, millennials started the gig economy, and here we are with Gen Z really putting their own twist on it. And it really says something of what the world is going to look like going forward.
Yeah, Gen Z is such a hot topic, and we're also, everyone are talking about it and focused on Gen Z. And we've run some research as well recently with Next, but also others. And you see that on one hand, they consume news and everything from social media, and we know how they are impacted by influencers. And sometimes it looks like people tend to think about Gen Z, which are kind of superficial. They care a lot about, how others look at them, and but they're growing into such a different reality, and it's fascinating. I mean, once I started talking to Suzanne about it, and we kind of realized that when you look at them, you realize that they're much more creative and adaptive. They want to be part of community. They want to stay connected to their families and the people around them. And this is so different from what we kind of tend to think about them. And they want to ensure their life. They want to know, how they learn and what their end goal is. And it's kind of very different. So it's totally connecting to what we see with Next and the fact that there are a growing number of small businesses owning by them.
Well, I thought this conversation on Gen Z was very timely. Last night, my 11-year-old daughter came home from school and talked about how someone fired her from a company that one of her other friends had started. So she and another group of friends started another company, and now they're competing with them. And so it just makes me laugh, because when you talk about the youngest being 9, it's like a whole new level of drama that we can expect going from elementary school into middle school about hiring and firing each other now, which is a little bit different from what we all grew up with. So new generation.
I think it's fascinating.
New generation, new drama.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing that's really interesting is the millennials are all about balance and, you know, making sure that life isn't all about work, because they watch their parents work like crazy. And the Gen Z, it's not about like, it's really about security and making sure that nobody can pull the rug out from underneath them. And that's like a really different perspective. And I don't know, I find the whole thing fascinating.
It is. Well, and when we think about the story even that you just told about the 24-year-old, the small business, I mean, it is very personal. It's very individual. And this last year was just incredibly challenging for some, but also at the same time, incredibly rewarding for others. We talked about, you know, dog walkers and how their businesses failed because everyone was home, but then dog trainers rose because everyone, you know, was suddenly welcoming pets into their home because they're home all day. With such a dramatic impact on your target market, did Insights have to do anything quickly to pivot and adapt?
You know, so first of all, everyone should know that I started working at Next the week the pandemic hit, the week everything closed down. Now, I have to be honest and selfishly, I was fine to work remote because I'm used to working remote, and that's all good. So that part was good. But what happened is that back in March, our first mantra was like, we're supposed to create and launch our first national ad campaign. That's what we were supposed to do before this. And then this pandemic hit. And I had been talking to small businesses every day for this first, month or so. And they were shut down and they were suffering and they were scared. And it was a hard time and incredibly emotional. So the creative director, who started about the same time I did, we kind of got together and hats off to his incredibly high emotional intelligence, said, you know what, we need to rethink this. This isn't the right time and the right place to do a national campaign about, selling people something when they don't have work. So we shifted it and said, we need to champion this small business owner and really, really need to hire them and let them be our ad campaign. And so we're really proud of it. And I think we're going to get a chance to see it now.
Went mid-March, and it was kind of like the ultimate gut punch.
I was mandated to close March 24th.
Everything had just completely canceled, about $12,000 worth of weddings just for March. And then April canceled, and then May it's canceled.
We lost everything in a very short amount of time. And that's the reality that we're living in right now.
It's not fun. I'd just rather be back to work, you know what I mean?
It's going to make me cry.
I'm going to be making a table.
I'm going to go dig.
Dance, build,
Feeding people, performing.
Here we are. We're down in the living room.
Ready to learn salsa? Let's get to it.
Here you go.
I've been doing a small planter box.
Going to be printing this on the various color shirts.
It's important that you keep your elbows locked towards the side of your body.
This meal, we are donating it to a family in need.
Mural updates.
We like to call this social fitnessing.
Doing some live DJ broadcasts, giving people a little bit of music in their homes, lifting people's spirits.
Going out to show our appreciation for a hospital here in Houston.
Being able to give them these kits will really allow them to be able to learn through play.
Isn't this exciting?
All right, let me show you.
Stay safe. We'll get through this. Oh! What? That's a wrap.
So I've watched that thousands of times. It makes me emotional. This is what I said about insurance may not be sexy, but small business flow. Like, they're amazing. And several of the people that are in this ad are people that I recruited for qualitative research and got them to be part of this. And it's pretty inspiring, their stories.
Yeah, I feel the same way every time I see it. We've all seen incredible stories like these in our own hometown, and just to see it put together in such a powerful way, it's just incredibly moving. It's a beautiful ad. It's amazing work, amazing outcome. So to just kind of add on to that kind of outcome, with hearing what you've talked about so far, with how you've structured the team, connected to the consumer, and I mean, really at a very personal level, and enabled kind of quick decision-making in times of dramatic change, what has this really done for Next overall?
Yeah, it's really about creating this, customer-centric company. And it sounds so easy to say. It's really, it's meaningful. So what that means is, first, we're a Google Drive company. So everything is Google Drive, which means everything's a work in progress. Everything is, information is shared continuously, and that goes with research as well. So I do research, on a Wednesday. Thursday, I'm sharing the results and having conversation, debriefs, et cetera. We just have this continuous flow. But it's also that it's not unusual that it's our company that we are literally onboarding more than 10 people every week. And we need to ensure those people kind of get up to speed fast and get running. And so what we're doing is we're actually using research as part of that process. So I spent my first month at Next doing foundational research, developing personas, creating value prop and benefits, et cetera. That information is now part of our onboarding, so that we share that in a video so that people can really work better, understand the customer better, and really have that shared experience and shared vision, and start out realizing how important it is to put that customer in the center.
Yeah, so what Susan is describing at Next are goals that we see a lot in the industry and focus on. So we see a lot of companies looking for solutions, trying to shift their resources internally, especially in the past year where budgets are cut. They want to make quick decisions. They want to have those decisions be informed by consumers, to have these things easily shared and cascade research through the organization, and have continuously learning, as Susan just spoke about. So as a result, there's incredible demand for solutions that enable and support this way of working. We've seen many companies emerge to this space and trying to solve the need. And the entire research tech segment and the industry is growing dramatically in the past year.
Yeah, I'm sure even all of you on the call, feel that there's just so many different options in this space. And, Suzanne, just for the benefit of this group, with so many solutions, why did you pick Wizer?
So first of all, part of our mantra at Next is we are about small business, and we should actually be embracing that ourselves. And so part of it is looking beyond always the reach for the vendor that you always know, and look beyond that. And Wizer is just one of those that actually there was a lot of synergy with what we do, other than being a small business. It's fast, it's tech forward, and it's affordable. And those are the reasons why I chose it. There's this ability, it's always, I have a Wizer tab open on my computer at all times, because that's how often I go to my data. Like, I'm constantly looking at it and sharing it. And, it's again, work in progress. And so I have this amazing tool that I can use, but I also have this partnership. So Shani and I, we work together. She raises red flags for me. She has you might want to rethink this. How do we sample? What do we do? We have these conversations all the time. So we have that tech and people that connect. That's awesome. The other thing, I get results, I'll get a survey results literally in minutes. I can share a digestible document with my stakeholder. I can share that data that fast and really make sure that research becomes kind of part of that decision making, and not just on the shelf, somewhere. So it's bringing it kind of front and center.
Thank you, Suzanne. It's really nice to hear. And, at the end, I feel the same. It's all about the combination of people and technology and, being passionate about what you do. Exactly.
And, just to sort of, I guess, close on a final point, being close to Next and being close to Wizer, they are two companies that are very tech forward in their respective industries. but that technology is only as good as the people and the passion and the curiosity behind it. And, you know, it's great to see that on both sides. You know, we heard the story of Next. I mean, just making a tremendous impact. One of those companies kind of, you know, disrupting very well-established brands and doing that by putting that consumer voice at the center of everything, the DNA of their structure, how they're connected to product and marketing, that continuous learning, that easy flow of information such that they can really turn on a dime and really take quick action. And Wizer bringing that complementary synergy to that way of working. And Suzanne, we've very much enjoyed being a part of that journey, and we very much look forward to what is to come.
Me too. Yeah, it's awesome.
So I guess at this point, we'll open the floor to questions. I don't know, Roni, if you see any there that you'd like us to start with, or feel free, anyone, to type in there.
Scott, are you handling it like for the
other one? I'll watch the chat, but also I'll kind of be the kind of invisible hand behind the scenes in the chat. We don't have any yet, but like I'm happy to throw one out. You know, that video was incredible. I'm you know, I can imagine how, like, after seeing it 1,000 times, it was you still feel the impact. You know, where do you start? Like, if the folks on this panel want to like if the folks in the audience want to do something similar, like, you know, where do they start? What tools? Who do they talk to? I mean, just I'd love to hear that process, and it sounds amazing.
In terms of the ad, or in terms of building? In terms of
the research and the concepts behind it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that I think it's the first thing I said, which is research has to be at the center of everything you do, and it has to start the process. And people aren't used to that. So I do have this conversation almost every week where people say, when should we do research? And I'm like, we are always doing research. This is what we do. And it's all about like getting smarter. And the closer that we are to our customers, the better we are. So for me, the second I could share the results of research and demonstrate what was happening, that's actually when the light bulbs go off and they're like, whoa. The other thing is I say yes a lot more than I say no. So at this stage, when anybody wants to do research, I'm pretty much a yes person right now, because I want people to, I want them to ask, even if they feel like it's a small thing to ask. I can often incorporate things within interviews or other ways to get the answers for them. And I think it's about building that enthusiasm and realizing that they can do their job better if they know this information and if they're all part of it. So I think it's an attitude more than anything else, as opposed to being, it used to be like in the back room, right? You know, research used to be like in the basement, basically. And it's just
now they brought you up to the ground floor.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, just, along the lines of giving folks access, we've got a question, which is, what do you think about making research tools broadly accessible to the organization?
So I have opinions about that. So I actually want people to very involved in research, but I don't want to do dirty research. So part of what's happened, and I've seen this in a lot of organizations, if too many people, for instance, are doing interviews and aren't trained for it, or people are drafting surveys and think they're asking the same question but phrase it very differently or sample very differently, then you get different data that seems contradictory that's being presented across the organization. And it's the worst thing that can happen to research, because people are like, people are always wrong, or you know, it was wrong sample, or who did you talk to? Or like, there's all these questions. So I find the discipline to be super important, that it's still centralized. So I want everyone to be involved. I want their feedback, but there should be one group that actually makes the decisions about how that is done, so that we do it clean and we're kind of sending the right messages throughout the organization.
We've got two questions that are kind of overlapped. One is kind of, you talk about continuous learning. How is that practical? And that's from John. And then Julia, who was our keynote speaker earlier, says, what is your balance of foundational versus tactical research?
Tactical.
Like,
so foundation. Yeah. So foundational, first of all, I think it's critical at the very beginning that you set that up and that you really understand your customer. Tactical is always happening as well. So tactical, in fact, a lot of my UX is very tactical. There are some elements of it that are very strategic in terms of how we approach it, et cetera, but there's a lot of those pieces. In terms of, so I think there's always both happening, but depends. So for instance, when we had a new product that we were developing, I'm going to go and do a lot of foundational about like who buys this, why do they buy it, what's going on. But then when we actually talk about how to actually put it on our site, totally different kind of method. In terms of how do we do continuous, so I'll just give you an example. I used to do this in person, but now we're doing it remotely. I do research for the UX team once a week. So I do it on Thursdays. On Wednesdays, they have to give me any stimulus and we have conversations. On Mondays, we debrief. And I put audio clips, video clips, all kinds of things that are all part of that foundational, what's happening, where are we getting the feedback? And then we alter and we iterate and we do change it every week. We're moving things. And so sometimes some weeks everything changes and sometimes only a few things change. I'm recruiting different kinds of people. It's that piece. So the continuous thing has to do with getting people to feel like there's a cadence and we're going to keep moving and we're moving forward. And that's what's happening. And so that's the expectation. And so that people are constantly thinking, oh, we should get this in front of people. Oh, we should get this in front of people. Like that kind of feeling.
Amazing. Well, this is great. Yeah, thank you all. I mean, thank you, Jen, Suzanne, Shani, and thank you to Wizer Next Insurance. I mean, this is a really, really great session. It really helped us kind of unpick how, what a successful partnership looks like and kind of your insights practice. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.